to the Cello Doll YouTube channel. If you've clicked on this video, then chances are you have a tone quality mystery on your hands, and Chelly and I are here to help you out. Oftentimes students will come to me and say, I've been working on my bow angle and straightening that out. I've been having a heavy bow arm. I've been trying to avoid sliding up and down, but still my tone is not as clear and resonant as I would like it to be. Well, if those three things are pretty consistent on your checklist, it's very likely that something is going on with the left hand. So the left hand can cause issues even though the bow is what produces our sound. Believe it or not, my dolls, this can often be the case. So Chelly and I are going to explain to you why this is, and also my top exercise for addressing this and fixing it. So before we get to those tips and tricks, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to the Cello Doll YouTube channel to show your support. If you want to go above and beyond, I am on Patreon, where you can directly support my Cello Doll projects. And as a thank you, you'll get access to exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. So, going back to that left hand, if you are really following your teacher's instructions for good bow arm form, be sure that you are also checking out the left hand. Is the string being weighed down properly so that we can have a clear and resonant sound with the bow? So to show you how similar these two issues sound, I'm going to play a short scale for you all. The first time, I am going to have a bow arm that has too light of a weight. The second time around, I am going to play the same scale, but I am going to have very light fingers, and I want you to listen closely to see if you can hear the subtle difference in the tone. Both of these scales had the following in common. The tone was inconsistent and fuzzy over the duration of each note, and also the notes didn't have an immediate start to them. They kind of snuck in. Now, a subtle difference between the two is when I have a healthy bow arm weight, the open strings sound significantly more clear than when I apply the left hand. So if you hear a really clear, strong tone quality on the open strings, it's a good sign that your bow arm is doing the right things and that your issues might be in the left hand. Another thing to listen for when it's a left hand issue is that two notes will kind of blur together as you change the bow. So instead of having a resonant but clear start to each note, we hear what sounds a little bit like a trip. Da-da, 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 like we're kind of falling into the next note and that it doesn't start independently. If you don't have enough weight in the string with your left hand, there is going to be the tiniest gap between the string and the fingerboard. So the string isn't going to be able to make clear contact underneath your fingers, and as a result, we can't get a solid, sustained note. Another way to think of it is how some guitarists use a capo to create a new pitch for their open string. That capo has to be very firm and solid, otherwise you're going to get a lot of buzzing when you strum the strings. Here's another way to think of it in cello terms. When we want to play a new note that is not an open string, we are establishing a new string length and we're creating a new contact for sound. If that is not stable, if you are not weighed in enough, then you're going to have a very inconsistent sound quality. was sink my finger deeper into the string so that it could make more contact with the fingerboard. So before we get to my favorite exercise for working on your left hand weight, I want to be very clear what I mean when I say the string is way down and making contact with the fingerboard. A very common misconception is that we have to squeeze the cello neck on both sides. So we're squeezing down with our fingers and up with our thumb, and we're clamping down on the cello neck. Now that is a huge mistake we need to avoid. If you are squeezing on both sides of your hand, that is going to create a lot of tension and can result in pain or discomfort in your thumb, other parts of your hand, and even your arm. So, slight disclaimer, if you are experiencing that kind of discomfort, be sure to talk to your private teacher about it. They'll be able to give you some exercise and tips for avoiding tension, but if it doesn't improve, be sure to go visit a medical professional. So if we can't squeeze the cello neck, then how do we safely weigh down the string? Is how you hang from a monkey bar at a jungle gym. You don't hold on to dear life, you hang and your weight pulls down on the bar. So how do we get in touch with that feeling? Take your left hand and put it all 4 fingers down like you're about to start playing. Take your right hand and lift the cello a couple inches away from you. Now pull the cello down with the left hand like this. So I'm a little high, now I pull it down and I'm sinking down into the string like I want to keep pulling the cello back. Now wiggle your thumb around. No tension there. If you can slide your thumb up and down the neck, then that means you're doing a good job. The left hand is having a downward pulling motion, and you want to be careful you don't droop the elbow down when you do this. You still want to have an elbow that is up, so you don't have to pull super hard, just a little bit of a pulling down with a supporting elbow still. So now we're not squeezing on both sides anymore. We are pulling down with weight from above, and our thumb is free to move around and act as a guide. The thumb can assure that you are in the right position on the fingerboard. It doesn't clench and contribute to being weighed into the string. So now that we've discussed how to weigh down the cello string safely, we are going to go into my favorite exercise for monitoring the left hand and how we coordinate it with the bow. I like to call this the left and right hand duet exercise. Now, if you watch a professional cellist, it's a little misleading. It looks like our left and right hand are perfectly synchronized and doing everything at the same time. However, the left hand has to be milliseconds, even fractions of a millisecond ahead of the bow. If my left hand isn't prepared by the time my bow wants to draw the new note, we're gonna get that fuzzy start, squeaks and scrapes that we don't want in our tone quality. So first I would apply this exercise to a scale of your choice. Now what happens is the left hand moves, you pause, and then you bow. So this exercise is going to train your bow to not jump ahead of the left hand preparation. We're going to start with a pretty long gap between each note, and then once that coordination gets comfortable, you can shorten the pauses between your notes, and eventually you are going to be playing them quite closely to one another. So as I'm placing my finger onto the new note, I am really checking that I feel heavy and sinking down into the string and that my thumb isn't trying to squeeze from under the cello neck. Open strings happen normally, then I place, bow, place, bow, place, bow. it's going to feel like a lot of multitasking at first, but that's why I suggest trying this out with a scale that you are very familiar and comfortable with. Now, what type of repertoire would be good for this exercise? Well, something that you are building up to a fast tempo, something that is very rhythmic with a lot of 16th notes or 8th notes, and also something with a lot of string crossings. With string crossings, not only do you have to be weighed in, but you have to switch to a string first with a graceful, relaxed hand and then sink back in. String crossings involve extra steps, so even if something isn't super fast, if it has a lot of string crossings, that's a good candidate for this exercise. Any cellist at any point in their cello learning journey, whether you're a beginner to advanced, can really benefit from this exercise. So, one example I'm going to give is the first Popper Etude from the High School of Cello Playing. This one has a lot of scales and string crossings, and you are constantly playing triplets in an allegro molto moderato tempo. Not too fast and speedy, but it's still pretty brisk, and there are a lot of things to keep track of in this etude. So again, think to yourself, place, weight, bow. A common mistake with this exercise is that people are very eager, and I love it when people are eager to learn, but you can't rush the exercise. So really, make sure you start with larger gaps so that you can really focus on each component of the movement before you start doing them closer and closer together. Also, when you have a lot of string crossings like this etude, make sure the left hand travels a little bit ahead of the bow. Again, we want the bow to be slightly behind the left hand. So if I do this, that's too close together. Make sure you sink in, then you move to the new string. So here is a slowed down version of Popper Etude number 1 with the left and right hand duet. So if you start with the slow version and your tone is clearing up, things are starting to make sense, don't immediately jump into a fast tempo. Make sure you have about 3 to 4 layers of building up your tempo, so you have kind of a medium tempo, medium fast, slightly faster, so you aim for consistency and clarity as you build up your speed. It's very unlikely that everything's going to be fixed just because you slow it down once or twice. Trust me, I know from experience, so definitely build in some tempo layers as you practice. And lastly, you can do this in small chunks or even just for one passage of a larger piece. You don't have to necessarily do this exercise for an entire piece, top to bottom. Sprinkle that exercise in sections that feel really challenging for the left and right hand coordination. Also, if you're playing concertos and you have a really fast passage somewhere or during a big epic buildup of a piece, that would be a great spot to take that as an excerpt and apply this exercise. This will be a tool in your toolbox that you can apply to many different types of repertoire throughout your cello learning journey. All right, my dolls, I hope you enjoyed this video and our deep dive into how the left hand can impact your tone quality. If you have a specific question about the left hand, the right hand, or tone quality, you can also leave that in the comments below and you might see it addressed in a future video. If you found the tips in this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to show your support. We have a cello tips and tricks playlist with a lot of variety to help you out in your practicing, as well as cello covers and music videos. Lastly, I am the Cello Doll, and you can find me here on YouTube, as well as Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can also check Chelly and I out on major streaming platforms to hear some Cello Doll music. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, happy practicing, my dolls. Bye-bye!